So, Alex Ullman, thank you so much for joining FORTE podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Great to meet you. Yeah. So, your new Liszt recording is coming out on the 24th of June, is that correct, of this year?
Yes, it is.
Tell us a bit about the journey of this CD, the making of this CD.
Okay.
How did the idea come about for this CD? What was the story?
Well, I wanted to sort of make a firm statement, really, of how I felt about Liszt and try and record it. And I think there are no better pieces to do that with than the sonata. And if you get to record the two concertos with the BBC Symphony Orchestra as well, and that's great. So, I mean, the Liszt Sonata is one of the pieces that I've grown up with and played for the past, 12 years or so, on and off. So it's really a piece that feels like home, and I think I have something to say that may not have been said with it before, and I thought the time was ripe for a recording of it. Yeah.
And what was the reason behind the choice to couple it with the two concertos together?
I mean, for me, they're maybe the most significant works that he wrote for the piano. Those pieces. I could have done solo things as well. I also, this is my debut concerto recording, and I thought that Liszt would be a good place to start, since the competitions and things. I feel comfortable with the concertos, and with Liszt in general. Like, I'm more confident with him, considering the world has decreed that I got first prize in two of the competitions with his name. It does lend a certain feeling of confidence than if I was just foraying into Schubert or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you describe us your first contact with Liszt? What was that memory of your first time playing and performing at Liszt?
Yeah, it was Liebestraum. And I played it. It was the first piece that I played at the Purcell School when I joined when I was 10. And it was the first concert that I gave there. I was incredibly nervous. And then I left it, actually, and I came back to it a couple of years ago. It was really nice. Yeah.
Did you learn anything new?
Yeah, my hands have grown. I have to actually, because I still remembered physically what it was like to play when I was 10. I had to kind of a little bit, for the octaves. It's quite funny.
And looking back at that time when you were that young, what was practicing like for you when you were that age? Did you know how to practice that then, or was it by intuition back then?
Yeah, I think that practicing is the thing which most defines who we are as musicians, more than talent, more than long hours at the piano. How much you work is the kind of and the quality of the practice that you do that establishes everything that happens at the keyboard, and so it's sort of like a lifelong journey, learning how to practice.
Yes.
And there's no method that works, because in order for the practice to be good, there has to be creativity and versatility involved. So your mind constantly needs to be working actively to do different things every day. And yeah, I mean, I suppose when you spend 5 hours a day doing something, it's good if you can make it interesting.
Yes. Has there been a practice technique that has been imparted on you that has changed the way you practice yourself? You never went back to your old ways again?
Like practice techniques or something?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing is to just never come to the piano tired, because well, okay, the most important sort of thing that I consider and think about when I'm at the piano is to make sure that I don't do anything that could become a bad habit. Because and if you're tired, then already your brain's not at 100%, and you're not going to be concentrating properly, and there's just no point pressing down a key unless there's some intention of what you're and a plan of doing something with that note, or why are we practicing this section? Why do I decide that it's a good idea to play through a piece of music in my practice? Like I can't figure out how to get around this technical passage. There's literally no point repeating it over and over and over again. It doesn't do anything. And many of the things that we're taught when we're young as classical musicians is that repetition is the key, and I think we just sit down and do our scales and play this piece over and over and over again. It'll get better. It doesn't get better. Things only get better when you change them, and that's something that is very sort of I'm always thinking about when I'm practicing.
But do you think a repetition has a time and place?
Maybe just when you're young and you're learning how to use your fingers well and equally, but it's like I don't actually think there's any difference between practicing your scales in the context of playing a Mozart concerto or just practicing your scales anyway.
It's in there already anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the music, and then you're doing something with it. Learning doing that over and over again only teaches you how to do it over and over again.
Right.
But
actually doing it in context has more benefits than actually doing it on its own, isolated.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm glad you mentioned the word psychology. I was speaking to retired or former British concert pianist Philip Folk.
Oh yeah.
And he was saying to me that he was very concerned with the idealization of a person when they're practicing, that their mind is in the concert hall and not actually fixing the piece. So in other words, they're just playing through the piece over and over and over again as if they're on stage. Where is your mind when you practice? Is it within fixing the problem at hand, or is it someplace else? Alex?
I mean, especially if I haven't been playing a concert for a while, I'll definitely try to imagine how it will feel when I'm on stage while I'm practicing, because there's a heightened level of alertness and adrenaline, and that can either be a good thing or a bad thing, especially if if it's difficult to memorize. But when I'm sort of playing more concerts and I'm used to it. I know how it feels on stage, and I know how it from the experience. I know how it's going to feel. I suppose sometimes I deliberately don't imagine what it's going to be like on stage, because I'm trying to hide from the fact that it's probably not going to go that well. I just delude myself and think, oh no, everything will be fine. I'm just joking, but
you said you had a closeness with Liszt. For those who don't know, who are watching, what kind of technique is required to play Liszt well?
Well, you see, Liszt basically invented modern day pianism and technique. So it's really some of the most useful ways of getting around the piano that we have, because it kind of, you can use it in everything. Every other composer, the things that he pushes you to do, the things that he pushes the pianist to accomplish on this instrument, were transformative at the time, and still quite amazing. And to this day, there's not really that much in, for example, Rachmaninoff or Prokofiev that hasn't been already, put out there for the first time with Liszt's music. I mean, there are differences, of course, and about the great composers that came before him. Liszt himself was playing all his life Beethoven, Hummel, and Handel and Bach and things, and kind of honed his technique on those composers. So I think it's all sort of physically relevant stuff.
Yes.
Was that the question? That wasn't really the question.
Oh well, yeah. Well, we're getting there. That's a good start. Yes,
right.
but
okay.
I meant just sort of technique-wise. Sort of what does Liszt do in this piece? Because when I was studying at Conservatoire, there used to be there was always this sense of fear wafting through the Conservatoire when people mentioned Liszt. Oh, it's technically
really,
yeah. That's what I sensed. And I thought, do you sense that people do have this fear in tackling Liszt pieces? They're notoriously difficult, notoriously.
Yeah, some of them are. But I don't know. I had fear for other things actually. I always found Liszt to be quite pianistic and everything's worked out and makes sense. There's nothing awkward about his piano writing ever. A lot of his virtuoso competitions are deliberately spectacular to listen to, while it's actually not necessarily being as difficult as it sounds. So I know that aspect of Liszt's music draws people, the technical difficulty. But what I'm much more interested in is the music behind it, and I think that maybe that approach that people have to his music. Oh, this is fast and challenging and difficult. I'm going to play it like that, and it's going to sound bad because that's the approach, not because of its technical difficulty.
Right.
Right. It's going to sound like they can't get around the notes because the focus and the priority is not to listen to the music. It's to play loud, fast notes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's in the wrong place. What if Liszt is pianistic to you, what do you find awkward as a pianist, personally?
Well, I mean, there are composers that write for the piano in the way that they're not pianists themselves, so there's that. But also, talking about things which are awkward for the hands, it's really more complicated than that, because it's about the kind of language that we're used to learning. Like if I was playing a lot of French music or something all my life, and like a lot of Franck and Chanson and FORTE and Ravel and Debussy and things, that physical language would be easier for me to get around and absorb. But it's just, I think it's a lot to do with what you're used to, actually.
Do you think your ease now with Liszt can be attributed to your early exposure to it? So I've not met many people who play Liszt at such a young age.
Well, I mean, yeah, it does happen.
Sorry. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I find it easy. I just play a lot of it.
Yes.
So, but I have found that whenever I do spend a certain amount of time with a particular composer, that's what helps me the most, is to kind of concentrate for one period on one composer and their language, and really kind of delve into it.
Because the stuff translates to all his other works as well, so it becomes easier to learn other things given by the same composer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's much easier to memorize something that you're familiar with the patterns, obviously.
Yes. Exactly.
So yeah.
You said that you can't imagine yourself doing any other job in the world, which is a pianist. If we can explore this a bit, what is it about playing the piano and performing the piano that just grips you so much?
It's a way of life, and we have a tendency to define ourselves by the things that we do. And so when I say I can't imagine myself doing anything else, it's because I wouldn't be me if I was doing something else. So, in that sense, I couldn't imagine it. But I also don't want to do anything else, which is nice for me.
People and teachers have always been the people who impart knowledge and guide us and inspire us to be better people. And I just want to explore the other way. I want to explore what kind of inanimate objects or abstract ideas that have taught you to be an artist too.
I suppose this one is the main one, isn't it?
Yes.
Inanimate objects that have acted as
teachers,
pedagogical instruments.
Yes, exactly. Or even abstract ideas, possibly.
People always go on about how you have to be a complete human in order to be a good artist.
Yes.
And it's the kind of platitude that's repeated a lot and not really properly understood. Like, you can't play the piano better from reading a poem. It doesn't happen like that. There actually has to be some interest, curiosity, feeling from immersing yourself in other arts, and that enables you to be the type of person that can be a better artist. It's not just standing in front of a painting. It doesn't help.
Just through osmosis.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that particularly studying ideas and philosophy and learning about all these different questions that are possible to ask and expanding your perspective of the world.
Yes.
Those are the most sort of those are the sort of tangible things that you can grab hold and think, yes, well, this will definitely help my playing.
Yes. I just think it's one of those things that you do it and you won't notice the change over time. You won't notice how it changes you, but it does change you over time. It's like a bit like how you grow in heights. You do it, but you don't realize it yourself. And one day you wake up and it's somehow installed into your program.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in a way, even though you don't see the process of it happening, just doing it and investing your time in, say, reading widely as possible, and try to be a complete human being. I think one day in the future that it's gonna involve itself into your mind, in the way you behave.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just going back to the practice thing again. It's about, if you're a curious human being and you're actively trying to learn, rather than sort of passively going through life thinking this is enough, then you'll be more likely to be the type of person that practices in that way as well.
Yes.
So that's how you can use it to get better at the piano, I think.
Yes. Yeah. And I think you hit the key word there. I think it's active learning. Because I think if you're active enough, things will come to you as well. You sort of attract things that you weren't initially seeking in the first place.
Yeah. Certain amount of sort of neurotic self-analysis, going on all the time, especially since you're for pianists, I think.
Yes.
Especially since we're isolated alone with ourselves for hours a day.
Yes. You said something that I really related to, which was that you're attracted to things that have a deeper meaning beneath the surface. And I have this really arresting habit of trying to find patterns in things.
Oh yeah,
beneath the surface.
Yeah.
And then trying to relate it to non-related subjects. So, for example, music and, I don't know, let's say, sport.
Right.
We're both kind of related, but in a way, I see the relation, and it's sort of fascinating when you do see these underlying connections that you can't stop seeing it for other parts of life.
Right.
Do you think that's something you've experienced too? This looking beneath the surface, seeing all these connections between unrelated ideas and unrelated topics, to find out they're not so unrelated.
Like a subterraneous branch of connecting thoughts and theories about the world. Yeah, definitely, because it's so limiting if you just adopt one hierarchical view of how things are. You can't evolve, can you?
No.
So, just to be able to connect anything to anything else and find... I mean, human beings love symmetry and patterns.
Yes.
So that is one thing that... I can get behind.
Yeah. And it's an endless amount in music as well, analysis. Is that something you...
Yeah. It's I don't think any kind of analytical knowledge could be a bad thing unless your brain is so full of the what you understand about the construction of the music that it gets in the way of actually being able to get rid of that and just play it.
Yes.
Found that happening sometimes to me with late Beethoven, because I'd want to understand it so much and be the good student that actually I ended up really overcomplicating everything so much, that I had to sort of get rid of it. I can't remember the exact anecdote, but Charles Rosen writes in his piano notes his story of how he was talking about this... the way that a note works in the third cello sonata with Rostropovich maybe, or some other cellist. And then the cellist goes, "Oh yeah, that's really interesting. I never realized that before. I've been playing it for 40 years." and he also is making the point that actually it doesn't necessarily make that much difference. But however, if you know it or you don't. But however, I don't think that it's ever a bad thing to seek out that kind of, architectural understanding of music. You have to.
Yes. If we bring it back to what we talked about earlier, this habit of investing some time in analyzing something now, and you don't see the process happening, but you can see the result in the future. I think that's probably related to that. This analyzing of the piece in private.
Yeah.
And then in the performance, somehow you've involved all that work into your performance.
I notice it most when I'm teaching, actually, occasionally, and and there is the years and years of knowledge built up there from all of the music history analysis and form. Things that we learnt as a student. So it is actually still there, and it does. Yeah, it really does help over the year build up that knowledge, and not that I was a particularly disciplined or dedicated student, but
sorry.
I have a friend who studies Bach inventions and chorales every morning, who just constantly makes me feel bad about how little I'm doing in that regard.
This is sort of a reflective question. Well, all the questions so far have been quite reflective. Can you recall a moment in your life where an opportunity seemed quite terrifying at the time, but you've done it, and in hindsight, you're glad you've done it?
Yeah, many. I mean, we can look back at our lives and take, look at these moments which we take to be pivotal. I tend not to look back at that much, though.
Oh.
Either in sort of being self-congratulatory about an opportunity that I've taken, or being regretful about something an opportunity that I missed. I just think, there's everything that happens to us is much more just a series of random accidents than we're willing to accept.
Yeah.
You know? And there's so much chaos in our lives, and there will be in the future. We have very little control over what happens to us during our lifetime. And so I sort of try to focus more on that and think about that, because it's not natural for us to, it's, you know, we want a narrative. And we want things to make sense, and for us to have done things for reasons which, you know, we've gone over and thought, but life, I don't think life's actually like that. Which I think is quite freeing. I think the chaotic nature of things is freeing, because it allows us to just hold ourselves completely responsible for nothing. And
and just live in the moment.
That would be nice.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be very nice.
Yeah.
Just a final remark.
Yeah.
What do you think, or what do you want people who listen to your CD to take from it? Your CD coming out on 24th of June, 2022. Just got to plug that in.
I would like them to be dazzled and amazed and in awe of my pianistic brilliance and profundity. No, I would like them to think that I would like them to be happy that they listened to it and thought, oh yeah, you know, he was right to record those pieces and do this. I am interested in what he's saying. Yeah.
And then Liszt as a person too, and a composer.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Alex Ullman, thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, thanks for having me. It's fun.